Wow, so mining rubbish dumps like we do fossil fuels.
As technology becomes sort of omnipresent and omnicapable, we have to set the limits of what it should not do.
So waste dumps may become the future energy powerhouses. We may be actually finding ourselves refining and recycling our rubbish dumps. The pessimist viewpoint is that we will destroy the planet and we will have to go to other planets to look for resources and a way of surviving what occurs here. So some of those science fiction doomsday prophecies of not getting our stuff together and over-polluting the area and overstripping it, it's very pessimistic and negative, but it may be close to a reality.
Barack Obama once said, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So I think that is a great analogy to look at the future. And I think we see, for example, in autocratic leadership, we see the 1 step back now. And I very much hope that it will be 2 steps forward, because people wake up and say, all right, all good and well, but what about the environment? What about, diversity? What about, but we want that to be taken care of as well.
How important do you think that is, just in terms of being able to project forward and see something better or different than what we have today to deal with?
It's what gives us inspiration to keep going, isn't it? To be able to pick your eyes up and see what's coming up and what could be, what is possible over that horizon that isn't being dictated to me by somebody else. That is something I can aspire to, that I can see myself in, and my children in, and my friends in, and my family in. I think it gives us hope. It pushes us to go beyond the mundane, and it pushes us to rise above mediocrity. And I firmly believe more than any other time in our history, right now is when we need to rise above mediocrity.
Well, I always say the future is better than we think, because we tend to sit here and then say, okay, robots will kill us and AI will take over our jobs and, they will be weaponized genetic engineering, and that's all a possibility and that could go horribly wrong, right? However, first of all, we're not as far along as we think sometimes. Machines aren't thinking, robots aren't driving the street, and so we'll take a little bit longer. That's one thing. The other thing is that there are so many positive things about solving large problems like water, electricity, energy, food, right? Artificial food, 3D printing. We're solving huge global problems with technology. The only thing with that is that as technology becomes sort of omnipresent and omnicapable, we have to set the limits of what it should not do. Right? So today we're looking at this and saying, oh, what can it do? How much will it cost? And that's primary mover of technology. In 10 years, we're going to sit here and say, well, it can do anything. What should we do? Right? And who is in charge?
Where are you at? Optimistic, pessimistic, where are we going?
I am a short-term pessimist, long-term optimist. Things are going to get worse before they get better, whether we're talking about climate, talking about politics, privacy. But if we live through it, we have so much potential to make it as close to a utopia as you want to imagine. We know what to do to solve the problems that we face. The question isn't figuring out the answer, the question is implementing the answer and being willing to make the changes in our lives, knowing that we won't see the benefit immediately. Knowing that it may be the next generation that really takes advantage of the things that we've sacrificed in order to make that future. That future is possible. That optimistic, almost utopian future is very possible. We know how to make it. We just need to make that decision.
HR can be, when they change that mindset to people and curiosity and teamwork, and away from thinking about individuals and away from thinking about performance as this annual ambush where you get told the thing you didn't do, and they can start to understand that world of enabling and empowering the best people to do the best work. I think that people team becomes a force multiplier for the organization, and that's when organizations realize that technology might seem complex. It's damn sight easier than culture change, right? And so getting a culture that naturally evolves, that has its nimbleness built in, that has feedback loops around how you understand what you do and delighting customers and working with each other and collaborating and embraces that diversity, that will be the secret sauce that I think is a differentiator for the best organizations in the future of work.
What would you hope for, on the next horizon in terms of improving the future of dying for people here and elsewhere around the world?
I think people to have a better awareness for themselves that it's not something to run away from all the time, that you can balance the two elements together and not to be frightened by the possibility. Explore the possibility so that you can then be present to it. And that goes for everybody. It's not just patients and families, it's healthcare professionals as well. I do think, we can't always rely on government and structures and funding to find that space. We need to sort of encourage people to all be working in the space together. So to me, that's what the future should be, that we should all be aware and connected and not ignore the possibility. And then when it becomes the inevitability, that we're ready and prepared and kind of ready to go,
The future of AI is connected to data, to me. Who owns and controls those data are the ones who are going to own and control the future. The future of AI is something that I believe we already half wrote. The book is already half written, but I think we can still change the outcome, in the sense that if we keep on raising the awareness and make sure that people understand the pace at what it is going and the impact, that it is having and it will still have on our lives, I think that raising the awareness will help also change our mindsets, because at the end we need to change our mindsets, to make sure we have a kind of equal and beneficial and human type of AI.
We have a long way to go, but I feel in my lifetime I'll be able to see a society living together as like equal partners in the society. We could be living a contributing life. So I see that people are changing. There are a lot of people who think about, okay, we need to actually help. So that is okay, that's the first step, and we need a lot of help, and I accept that. Without people's help we cannot move forward. And then I think there will be a day wherein it is not seen as a help. It will be seen as, okay, it's part of life, and then I have a responsibility to help whoever requests that help. So we're going to do it as a responsible society and a civilized society. So that's the future I envision, and I think that is possible.
We would like to see more human beings living according to their own truth, their own skill sets, and living a life that is meaningful to them. And it just so happens, in order to do that, there needs to be mental faculties open up, and some mindset training and all of that sort of stuff, and they need practical skills and capabilities as well, so that the individual can determine what's meaningful to them and live a life that aligns to that and be successful in doing it.
I think that the leader of the future is inspiring, is purpose-driven, has an abundant mindset and a curiosity that not just inspires people to follow them to explore the future, but there's a joy in creating the optionality, and so that we start to remember that leadership is a creative job. I think Albert Einstein said it best in that business is the most fascinating kind of art, and so I encourage everyone to pick up their paintbrush and get to work, because the future's waiting for us to design it.
We're going to see a richer world, a happier world, a world that is more at peace. And I certainly think that climate change would not be so fiercely debated as it is, and it would be simply something that we get on with. And I'll tell you what, we all win from that. In fact, there's a phenomenon called the girl effect, which is that when you empower a woman financially, you're actually not just empowering her, you're empowering her family, her community, her society, and that microeconomic community. There actually is something called the 50-50 phenomenon as well, where you have 50-50 representation of female leadership, especially at the senior ranks, the executive ranks, the CEO ranks. That company is actually more profitable, has better culture, and higher morale and productivity. So that is what the world is going to look like.
We've never seen a time traveler from the future come back to visit us, right? That seems to be sort of a logical and philosophical demonstration that it's not possible. You might also argue that maybe they don't care about coming to, once they evolve so far beyond us, in terms of intelligence or consciousness, that they why would we want to go back and talk to those people, right?
Yeah, the dark ages.
Yeah, right. There's the other part of it where, I think that some speculative fiction authors have, explored this too, where time travel is eventually harnessed, but it's such an elite thing that it's only available to the very wealthy and a very stratified society, which is, something unfortunately we have now. But if we were ever able to harness time travel and to make it available in the masses, it's inevitable that some bozo would go back in time and kill their father or something like that, and we would see these effects that these speculative, mostly speculative fiction, alternate history effects that would then end up wreaking havoc with what we observe now. Things are pretty stable in terms of time right now, so it makes us start to think that time travel itself is pretty unlikely as a physical possibility for humans, at least in terms of our civilization ever being able to harness it and make it available to a large number of people.
Tomorrow's healthcare will involve a lot more of counselors, lot more of social workers, lot more of psychologists, and a lot more of volunteers from the community. This I see as an inevitable thing that has to happen, because people cannot get enough companionship.
So, for you, Robert, where do you see the future of happiness being?
I think it's a personal one. So realize that it's something that we can all have, and there's only one. This is the good news and this is the bad news. The bad news is if people are having a bad day or a bad life, it's their responsibility. But the good news is that it's also our responsibility to have an awesome life. So nothing can keep us from that. Nothing can keep us from that. No matter how dire our situations is, I can give you stories that would curl your hair, and yet people have turned out beautifully. So we can have beautiful lives, but we have to be the ones that proactively make that happen. No one else. And that will be, I think, to the listeners, that's what will be really important, is they take that challenge on and say, I am going to slowly begin to change my life. And 5% is not much of a change, but 5% and then 5% again and 5% again. After 20 times, you've changed 100%. So little changes turn into great changes with time.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you.